He was sitting on the bench. Rockets were going off. A crowd of 20,000 people was standing. The screen inside the arena was showing photographs, a young man with a headband, a younger man dunking over defenders who had already lost, a boy in an Akron uniform carrying a city on his back before he was old enough to vote, and the man sitting on that bench, the greatest basketball player who has ever lived, the man who had just turned 41 years old and was still averaging 21 points a game in his 23rd professional season. That man could not hold it together. His eyes filled, his jaw tightened. He sat very still and let the emotion move through him the way a person lets a wave wash over them when they know the tide is coming in and there is nothing left to do but feel it. It was January 2026. He was back in Cleveland for one night, back in the building where he had delivered the most important victory in the history of the city, back in front of the people who had booed him when he left, who had burned his jersey in the street, who had written his name in anger on signs and in columns and in letters to the editor, and who had forgiven him completely when he came back and gave them the thing they had been waiting for since 1964. And in that moment, watching the tribute video play in the arena that had once been his entire world, something crossed his face that the cameras caught and that every person who saw it immediately understood. This was not just a visit. This was a goodbye. Not spoken, not announced, not put in a press conference with an official statement from a publicist. Just a man letting himself feel the weight of everything he had built and everything he was approaching the end of in the city where it all began. 4 days ago, on March 6, 2026, LeBron James sat down with a reporter from the California Post and said something that stunned fans across the entire planet. He said when he was done with the game, he wanted it to feel like a funeral. But not the sad kind. He wanted people to understand that what was ending was not a loss, that what he was celebrating was a life, a full life, an extraordinary life, a life that began in the poorest neighborhoods of Akron, Ohio, in a family with no money and no stability, and a father who was never there, and that ended, or is ending, or is approaching its ending, as the most accomplished basketball player in the history of the sport. That statement, those words, hit the internet like a detonation, and the full story of why they matter and why this moment is so much bigger than a soundbite about retirement is the story we are telling right now. To understand what LeBron James said on March 6, 2026, and why it shook the entire basketball world, you have to understand where he came from. Not the highlights, not the championships, the beginning. Before the Nike deal, before Sports Illustrated, before ESPN put a high school basketball game on national television, before any of it. The real beginning. LeBron James was born when his mother, Gloria Marie James, was only 16 years old. He was born in the state of Ohio, where he grew up in the city of Akron. When LeBron was still a kid, life was often a struggle for the family, as they often moved between apartments, not providing the family with the stability they needed. His father, a convicted criminal, was not part of his life, nor did he support his family financially. James grew up in the roughest neighborhoods of the city. CNN. A 16-year-old mother, a father who was absent, apartments changing like seasons. Akron, Ohio, a city built on rubber manufacturing, a city that had seen its best economic days come and go, a city where the neighborhoods LeBron grew up in were not places where NBA careers were supposed to begin. And Gloria James, that 16-year-old girl who became a mother without a partner, without a stable income, without a roadmap for how to raise a child in those circumstances, she held it together by sheer force of love and will and the stubborn refusal to let her son become a statistic. When LeBron was growing up, life was often a struggle for the family as they moved from apartment to apartment in the more run-down neighborhoods of Akron, while Gloria struggled to find steady work. Realizing that her son would be better off in a more stable family environment, Gloria allowed him to move in with the family of Frank Walker, a local youth football coach who introduced James to basketball when he was 9 years old.
U.S. Embassy and consulates in China. His mother gave him to another family, not because she did not love him, because she loved him enough to understand that the instability of her own life was going to cost him his future if she did not make the hardest decision a mother can make. She let him go. She let him live with the Walkers. She trusted a football coach from Akron with the most important thing she had. And Frank Walker, the man who took that boy in, introduced him to a basketball. And that ball changed everything. By his junior year, James had caught the attention of basketball fans across the country. The team at St. Vincent and St. Mary won the Division III state championship 3 of the 4 years that James attended. In 2002, USA Today named the team #1 in the country. James was named High School Boys Basketball Player of the Year by Parade magazine after both his junior year and his senior year. In 47 years of giving out that award, Parade had never chosen the same player 2 years in a row. Houston Public Media.
Never the same player twice in 47 years. That is the scale of what the country was seeing in a high school gym in Akron. Games were moved to the University of Akron Arena to accommodate the crowds. College and NBA scouts were flying in to watch a 17-year-old play basketball. Sports Illustrated put him on the cover while he was still in high school. ESPN televised his games. The machinery of American sports had identified its next phenomenon, and it was pointing at a kid from one of the roughest neighborhoods in northeastern Ohio who had learned the game from a football coach because his mother could not give him stability, but could give him the chance to find it somewhere else. In the 2003 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers selected James with the first overall pick. He won Rookie of the Year and quickly established himself as one of the league's premier players, leading Cleveland to its first NBA Finals appearance in 2007 and winning the scoring title in 2008. The first overall pick to the Cleveland Cavaliers, the franchise from his home state, the city closest to Akron, and the city that would love him and lose him and hate him and need him and receive him back and be delivered by him in the most dramatic championship in the history of American professional sports. After winning back-to-back MVPs in 2009 and 2010, he joined the Miami Heat as a free agent in 2010, a controversial move announced in the television special, The Decision. With the Heat, James won his first 2 NBA championships in 2012 and 2013, earning MVP and Finals MVP honors both years. The Decision, the television special, the moment that divided a country and destroyed a relationship between a superstar and his city in the most public and painful way the sport had ever seen. Cleveland burned his jersey. The owner of the Cavaliers posted an open letter in Comic Sans font, calling it a cowardly betrayal. LeBron James, the kid from the roughest neighborhood in Akron, the boy whose mother had sent him to live with a football coach, the young man who had carried an entire city on his back for 7 years, was now the most hated man in Cleveland, and he felt it. He carried it. He lived inside it for 4 years in Miami, while the Heat won championships and his home city seethed. And then he came back. After 4 seasons in Miami, he returned to Cleveland in 2014, leading the Cavaliers to their first ever championship in 2016, ending the Cleveland sports curse. The Cleveland sports curse. 52 years without a professional sports championship. The last time Cleveland had won anything was 1964, and the man who'd been burned in effigy came back. He came back, and in Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors, who had won 73 games that season, who were the greatest regular season team in the history of the sport, LeBron James made the most famous defensive play in the history of basketball. He chased down Andre Iguodala on a layup attempt with the game tied and the clock running down, and he blocked the ball from behind with a full sprint leap that every person who watched it understood immediately as something that would never be forgotten. And Cleveland won, and LeBron James cried, and a city that had waited 52 years cried, and a boy from the roughest neighborhood in Akron, whose mother had been 16 when she gave birth to him, whose father was never there, who had been called
a traitor and had his jersey burned in the street, that boy had kept his promise to his city. He left the Cavs for the second time in 2018, this time signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. He won his fourth NBA championship with the Lakers in 2020. 4 championships, 4 Finals MVPs, 4 regular season MVPs, 22 consecutive All-Star Game appearances, the all-time scoring record, and now, on March 10, 2026, his 23rd season, his age 41 season, the season that everyone can feel is the last one with the Lakers, and possibly the last one anywhere. LeBron James is a 22-time All-Star, 4-time MVP, 4-time NBA champion, and 4-time NBA Finals MVP. He hit yet another milestone just days ago, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to become the NBA's all-time leader in career-made field goals. He had already passed Abdul-Jabbar to become the all-time leading scorer in February 2023. All-time leading scorer. All-time leader in made field goals, the first player in history to play a 23rd season, the first active NBA player to reach billionaire status, and still, as of today, March 10, 2026, still playing, still averaging 21 points a game, still competing, still at 41, being the player that opponents game plan around, that teammates rely on, that fans buy tickets to watch in his final tour through arenas that will never see him again. On March 6, 2026, 4 days ago, LeBron James sat down with Melissa Rowland of the California Post and said the words that sent the entire basketball world into a state of emotional anticipation. He compared his retirement to a funeral, and he said, when people lose a loved one and have a funeral, they tend to be sad, but it is also a celebration of life, and that is what he wants his retirement to be, a celebration of life, not of loss, a celebration of everything he has accomplished in this game, everything he has put into it, the moments, all the love. James told the California Post, I kind of look at it like when you lose a loved one and you have a funeral. People tend to be sad, but it's also a celebration of life. I think for me, when I'm done with this game, it'll be a celebration of life and not of loss. It'll be a celebration of everything I've been able to accomplish in this game, everything I've put into it, the moments, all the love.
And then he said something even more revealing, something that goes deeper than any record or championship or statistical milestone. He said, I didn't cheat the game. Listen, I've dedicated to this sport. I've never cheated the game. I've showed up every day on time. I've put my work in, both on the court, off the court, just showed grace. That's what it's about. I've just wanted to maximize and squeeze everything I could out of the game because I understood what it gave me, my family, and everything. CNN. I didn't cheat the game. That sentence is aimed somewhere specific. It is aimed at every critic who spent the last 23 years questioning his legacy. Every person who said he was not Michael Jordan. Every analyst who pointed to the Warriors dynasty and said he could not win the big one without creating a super team. Every commentator who called the decision a betrayal and spent years using it to diminish what he had built. Every voice that said the records were inflated because the era was weaker, or the longevity was pharmaceutical, or the accomplishments were somehow less than they appeared. LeBron James, sitting across from a reporter on March 6, 2026, looked at all of that noise and said, I did not cheat. I showed up. I put the work in. I showed grace. Whatever you think of me, you cannot take that away. He has envisioned exactly one image for how his career ends. He told the California Post, me smiling. That's the best way I know for sure that I've gotten the most out of it. CBC News. Him smiling, not holding a trophy, not breaking a record, smiling. Because a smile means he has nothing left to prove to anyone and nothing left to regret. A smile means the boy from the roughest neighborhood in Akron, whose mother was 16 when she had him, and who moved 7 times in 1 year before the age of 5, has gotten everything the game could possibly give, and has given everything back. But here is the question that nobody can answer right now, the question that the entire NBA is holding its breath over.
Because LeBron James said his retirement will be a celebration of life. He did not say it would happen this summer. He did not say it would happen next year. He did not give a date or a season or even a strong hint about when. And his contract situation, the details of which make this decision more complicated than any retirement in the history of professional sports, means that the question of when is intertwined with the question of where. LeBron is currently in the final year of a 2-year, $101.4 million maximum contract. He is sitting on an expiring deal for the first time, setting up for, perhaps, the last free agency period of his career. He exercised his $52.6 million player option and did not sign a contract extension. Bleacher Report. No extension. He chose to go year to year. He chose to keep his options open. And those options now include 3 very distinct paths, each of which tells a completely different story about how the greatest basketball career in history ends. Path 1. He retires after this season. He walks away from the Lakers as an unrestricted free agent and announces that 23 seasons is enough, that the celebration of life has arrived, that the smiling is happening. That uncertainty means James has not received retirement tributes from teams this season because nobody is certain enough that this is the last year to organize the kind of farewell tour that his career deserves. NFL. If he retires now, without a tour, without the cities getting to say goodbye, it will be one of the most quietly understated endings in the history of American professional sports. Path 2. He returns to the Los Angeles Lakers for a 24th season. According to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, James would be welcomed back to Los Angeles for a 24th season. Lakers GM Rob Pelinka has previously declared that he would love for LeBron to retire as a member of the Lakers, with an eye toward James retiring in either 2026 or 2027. Newsweek. But the Lakers' financial situation is complicated. They're building around Luka Doncic. The second tax apron limits what they can offer. And the honest question, the question that the front office is asking, even if they will not say it publicly, is whether LeBron James fits into the Luka Doncic era of Lakers basketball, or whether his return would delay the very rebuilding process that gives Los Angeles a championship pathway in the next 5 years. Path 3, and the one that the entire basketball world is treating as the most poetic, the most emotionally resonant, the most narratively perfect ending available. ESPN's Tim McMahon addressed the growing talk of a James reunion with the Cavaliers on NBA Today, saying, "I know what the rampant speculation is around the league. This summer there's going to be a reunion and potentially a retirement tour for the ages back home again with the Cleveland Cavaliers next year." Bleacher Report. A retirement tour for the ages. Back in Cleveland. Back in the city where it started. Back in front of the people who burned his jersey and then cheered for him so hard in 2016 that the sound was heard all the way to Akron. The boy coming home. One final season. A farewell lap through every arena in the NBA, with every city standing to honor the man who changed the sport, ending where it began. In Ohio, where his mother was 16 when she had him, where Frank Walker gave him a basketball at age 9, where the Cavaliers gave him a uniform at 18, and where he gave them the only championship they have ever known. Insiders report that all-star guards Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are expected to recruit LeBron James to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the offseason. James becomes an unrestricted free agent this offseason for the first time since 2018. If the future Hall of Famer does not retire from the NBA, the Cavaliers are expected to heavily pursue James in free agency. Yahoo Sports. Former teammate Dwayne Wade went public on March 9th, yesterday, saying, "I think this is his final year with the Lakers. I think he'll go back to Cleveland and play one more year there." ESPN. Byron Scott, a man who played in this league, a man who coached in this league, a man who knows LeBron James the way that only people who have been inside professional basketball's inner rooms can know him. Yesterday, publicly, on the record, his final year with the Lakers, back to Cleveland.
As of today, March 10th, 2026, LeBron James has been ruled out for tonight's game against the Minnesota Timberwolves with an elbow and foot issue, the latest in a series of physical concerns that have raised questions about whether his body can sustain another full NBA season at 41 years old. CBSSports.com. He is hurt again. The body that he has spent $1.5 million per year maintaining, the personal chefs and trainers and cryotherapy chambers and hyperbaric chambers that have extended his career beyond anything the sport has ever seen, is sending the signals that 41-year-old bodies send. Not catastrophic signals, not career-ending signals, but signals. The kind that accumulate, the kind that a man notices at the end of a practice when he does not feel quite the way he used to feel, or in the first steps out of bed in the morning when the knees remind him of a decision made 23 years earlier to skip college and become the youngest player to ever answer the question of what greatness looks like in real time. 23 chapters. And now, on March 10th, 2026, the man who lived all of them is sitting in a training room in Los Angeles with an elbow and a foot that need rest, while the city of Cleveland is watching his every statement and every report about his health and his future and his plans, because an entire region of Ohio understands that the most meaningful ending this sport can offer, the ending that belongs to the story, the ending that the story has been building towards since a 16-year-old girl in Akron gave birth to a boy who would one day break every record the sport had, is not in Los Angeles. It is not in a purple and gold uniform in front of a Staples Center crowd that always has one eye on the celebrity row. It is at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It is in front of 20,000 people who know his name not as a brand, not as a legend, but as their guy. The kid who made it out of Akron and took Ohio with him everywhere he went. Former teammate Dwayne Wade, the man who played beside LeBron during the 2 Miami championships, who has known him longer and more deeply than almost anyone outside his family, told the California Post there's not been a word made yet to explain what it is. Fox News. There is no word. No word for what LeBron James has been in professional basketball for 23 years. No word for what it means to be the all-time leader in scoring, in field goals made, in seasons played, in the breadth and depth of statistical dominance maintained over the longest career the sport has ever produced. No word for the combination of physical gifts and psychological will and disciplined preparation and sacrificed privacy and commercial empire building and social activism and fatherhood and championship chasing that has constituted the LeBron James experience across a quarter century of professional basketball. And he knows there is no word. He does not need one. He told the California Post what he needs. He needs to be smiling. He needs to know when the final buzzer sounds for the last time that he got every last drop of it, that he squeezed the game the way the game squeezed him, that he showed up, that he showed grace, that he never cheated. And then he wants a celebration, not a funeral, a celebration of life. The life of a boy from Akron, Ohio, who was born to a 16-year-old mother with no money and no stability, who was given to a football coach at age 9, who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 17, who broke a 52-year championship drought in the city that had burned his jersey in the street, who became a billionaire, who built a school for at-risk children in his hometown, who played 23 seasons in the NBA when the record before him was 21, and who, even now at 41, sitting in a training room with an elbow that needs ice and a foot that needs rest, is not said his final word. When he does say it, whenever it comes, wherever it comes, in whatever uniform he is wearing when the time finally arrives, it will be the most watched retirement announcement in the history of professional sports, and it will feel exactly the way he described it. Not sad, not like a loss, like a life fully lived, fully celebrated, finally, lovingly completed.